Hey everyone, Rheyo here, and today I've brought you a video to give some ideas on how to build some starter PvM cache. For PvM, there's a lot of costs that you need to consider, such as gear, perks, supplies, and even switches later on down the line. And if you're getting into PvM, this can all sound very daunting, but my goal with this video is to help take away some of that gray area and building up your wealth for getting yourself into the next tier of gear. Before we get started, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this, and if you'd like to hang out in-game, you can always join my friends chat, or if you want to hang out outside of the game, you can join my Discord, the link to which will be in the video description. Let's dive in. I wanted to put a little bit of a disclaimer before going over these methods. As this guide is for building wealth for getting into PvM, these methods are going to be more catered to the mid-game players. Most bosses typically recommend 65 to 70 plus in the combat stats before attempting to do them, so I'm going to assume that's pretty much where you're at. 70 plus gear like the God Wars Dungeon 1 armors and some of the Barrows gears where the prices really start to jump up, whereas most pieces of gear before those levels are fairly affordable. The first method, dare I say it, is dailies. I know these are hit or miss for some people, but dailies are typically a great way to build some quick GP because they're only doable once per day or over a long period of time like an hour or two. I've made a video on this in the past, which I'll link in the video description, but if I had to pick some of the important ones from that video I still do regardless of how much money I have, that is Viswax and herb runs. In short, you can easily net yourself about 4 to 5 mil for only a few minutes of your time. Viswax is made at the Runecrafting Guild, requiring 50 runecrafting to enter, and takes a random set of runes each day in various quantities to be thrown into Goldberg's machine, which will spit out Viswax. You can get a maximum of 100 wax each day, and Viswax currently goes for around 20k each at the time of this video. As for herb runs, you have access to a base of 4 patches, which can be expanded up to 6 patches plus 1 wilderness patch via quests or diaries. To make a good amount of money, you can start as little as level 14 farming for Marentals. These herbs sell for about 5.6k at the time of this video, and the higher tier herbs can sell for even more. Key is to use super compost on the patch, use your herb seed, and move on to the next patch. The cool thing about herb runs is that it's technically not a daily, as herb patches complete their growth cycle in 80 minutes, meaning you can repeat this multiple times per day. I've also made videos specifically on farm runs and Viswax, which will be included in the video description as well. Another method I'd like to suggest to others is Croesus. Croesus can be done in public instances or smaller instance groups and has varying requirements. The suggested requirements for Croesus is 80 plus in mining, fishing, hunter, and or woodcutting, and this is to do effective damage to Croesus and gather enough resources. In public instances, you can get away with having below the recommended stats fairly easily so long as you don't contribute to enraging Croesus, and in 4-mans it's typically recommended to have the full elite skilling outfit of the role you're covering as well as a minimum of 80 plus in the respective stat. Croesus offers loads of skilling supplies that can be sold off for GP, but also has fairly decent drop rates for the manuscripts of Bic, which are currently around 3 mil per manuscript, and not to mention if you're lucky enough you can land some of the highly sought after Crypt Bloom armor. Croesus offers up to 12 rolls for loot per kill based on your contribution to the fight, with the minimum contribution required to receive all 12 rolls being 420 contribution. Various activities in the fight offer differing amounts of contribution, such as repairing statues, gathering materials, clearing fungus, and damaging the boss. Assuming you have all the recommended requirements, you can expect about 2 to 4 rolls per kill in a public run, and all 12 rolls in 4-mans assuming you have the required contribution points. Public runs typically take around half the time to kill Croesus as opposed to 4-mans, but they only give about 1/3 to 1/4 of the loot per kill due to the competition with other players. This combat related method is not only decent GP, but it's very good experience, and this is ED3 Trash Runs. If you're able to group up with 2 other friends or clanmates, you could dive into the depths of the Shadow Reef and start hacking and slashing to your heart's desire. Doing this method, you could expect around 3 to 4 mil per hour, while also gaining some huge combat experience. This method is ideal if you still need to beef up your combat stats or level up your augmented gear, all while earning some GP. As mentioned earlier, you can group up as it is easier to do this with other people, but you can also do it by yourself. All you need to do is go to the Shadow Reef entrance in Daemonheim, take the ship down to start the dungeon, and you're good to go. The monsters in this dungeon do hit kind of hard, so if you are a lower level, you will want to have a group to run this with. But if you're in your 90s combat stats, you might be able to do this by yourself. This method has a higher requirement of 99 Slayer, but for those of you who do have that requirement, you have access to a very great option, which is your player-owned Slayer dungeon. This piece of content has some decent ways to make some gold, as well as a lot of these methods being AFK. A personal owned Slayer dungeon is a way for you to capture souls of some Slayer creatures, put them in your dungeon, that way you have something to access at free will with no competition from other players. I personally have spiritual warriors in my dungeon, which grant me some combat experience, as well as super attack, strength, and defense potions, salvage, which is outed by my spring cleaner, and a great perk is that they drop war priest armor that can be disassembled for the God Wars Dungeon 1 components. Some of the more valuable components here are the Zamorak components for the Impatient perk, and the Armadillion components for the Precise perk. Chances are you'll be needing a handy amount of these if you're going for best in slot perks to account for the failed rolls. And although this isn't necessarily a gear upgrade, this saves you money on investing in your perks, which are just as important. Other options for your dungeon could be Capsarius for the Legion's Keystones, Tormented Demons for the Dragon Limbs, Ripper Demons for easy Ripper pouches, or even the Abyssal creatures to land some big ticket drops. The possibilities are really up to you. Take a look at some of the Slayer creatures with valuable drops and consider putting them in your player-owned dungeon. Another note with this method is that you technically can get away with not having this 99 Slayer requirement, but this requires you having a friend or a clanmate who allows you to use their Slayer dungeon while they're online. Aside from you not owning this dungeon and not having free access to it, you're also limited to whatever they have in their dungeon. The last method I have on this list has no requirements and can virtually double your money on average, and that is using crystal keys to open crystal chests in Taverley. This method specifically requires the Taverley chest due to the different loot tables, and the Taverley chest simply averages better loot. According to the wiki, the average profit per key is around 11k at the time of this video, while Crystal Key's current GE value is around 13 to 14k. This method just requires buying keys, using them on the chest, banking the loot, and selling it later. This method really holds value due to the guaranteed drop of Dragonstones plus the extra loot, which consists of runes and salvage a lot of the time. If you're lucky enough, you have a chance at landing a piece of the rare Dragonstone armor, but this is a very rare find. Fortunately, this rare drop isn't factored into the average loot per key due to its rarity, which makes this method fairly reliable. Keys are dropped in mass from higher level bosses like Raksha, Telos, and the Elder God Wars dungeon bosses, so the chances of them spiking up in price is slim to none. Some might consider this a riskier method due to spending money to roll for loot, but the loot here is consistent enough that I personally don't consider it to be a gamble. This option is probably just the least intriguing of them all, so I really only do this if I'm very strapped for gold. And that's all I have for you today, guys. This is only a drop in the pool of possibilities of making money for getting some new upgrades, but these are some of the methods that I've just naturally resorted to in a pinch. What are some of the methods you guys do for extra GP? Let me know in the comments, as it could help other players learn some new ways to make money, as well as give me some options. If you haven't already, join my friends chat in game to keep the conversation going, or join our Discord. I love meeting new people to play Runescape with, and even teaching content to. My Discord link is in the video description. Lastly, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more content. Thanks again for watching. I'm Rheyo, and I'll see you next time. Take care.